Here's a guy who strapped on a bulletproof vest, and he charged at someone he thought was the governor. He was going to slit the governor's throat. He ended up not slitting the governor's throat. It ended up being the dean of a college that he slit the throat of. But that wasn't worth reporting. It was just me? You've heard that story? Because Now, you'd have to include, if you wrote that story, that he was described as, quote, an anti-Christian, anti-capitalist leftist who participated in a number of left-wing protests, including the G20 protests. And that's where he was arrested originally and then deported. Afterwards, he posted online the words, "mission accomplished." This country, if we're to survive, and not anything else but ourselves, if we are to survive from what we are doing to ourselves, we have got to fix reason in her seat. We have to question with boldness, and we have to stop listening and taking things at face value, even on this show. Challenge yourself, damn it! Read. Question what I tell you. Check it out for yourself. This country has a clear pattern of assassinations and assassination attempts. But they seem to almost always come from the same group of dirtbags. There's a couple of them. Maybe if somebody wanted to be responsible, they would educate the American people on what history, particularly in the last 100 years, tells us is true and what to look for in the future, because history usually repeats itself. That's next. There has always been rhetoric and there has always been violence, but are the two tied together in any way? Let's take a look at American history and find out if there have been very many instances throughout history where someone has mistakenly believed violence was the answer, because it's not the answer, but instead of ignoring the past and just blabbing on television and never really getting to anything, let's see if we can actually learn from the past. Here on the chalkboard, I've wrote the different kinds of people that could go out and kill somebody. There's the crazy person, and I think the latest shooting, he goes under crazy. Then you have the anti-U.S. government, which is kind of you'll understand in a minute, the anarchist, socialist progressive, the constitutionalist, and the conservative. What do we have? Well, all of the people we mentioned here are the ones that resorted to violence and they're all crazy. Violence isn't the answer. The kind of category, though, that we put crazy person in doesn't mean that they were killing in the name of revolution or the Constitution or what have you. Even though he was a guy who believed in that stuff, the guy was a lunatic, okay? 1835, a man tried to shoot President Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson, it failed. Now, who was the shooter? Richard Lawrence. He later claimed that he was heir to the British throne and Jackson somehow stood in the way of his rightful place in line. So he was found not guilty by reason of insanity, and he went into a mental institution. Now, the most famous one, there's two that are wildly famous. The first one is Abraham Lincoln, 1865. John Wilkes Booth shot President Lincoln. Quote, "The very nomination of Abraham Lincoln 4 years ago spoke plainly. War upon Southern rights and institutions. His election proved it." Now, I would say he's constitutionalist, but if you put him in this category, if you've read the Southern Constitution, it wasn't the U.S. Constitution. He was actually anti-U.S. government because that's who the states were fighting against. You can argue about that one, but this is my TV show, so I make the rules. Next one was President McKinley. President McKinley was assassinated in 1901. This is how we got Teddy Roosevelt, by a 28-year-old man. This guy, this assassin, was an anarchist who made trips to hear the anarchist leader Emma Goldman speak. He was sentenced to death for the assassination. Why did he do it? As he was being strapped to the chair while being prepared for execution, he yelled, "I killed the president because he was an enemy of the good people. I did it for the good people, all the working men of all countries." I'm going to put him under anarchist, although the working men have actually ended there. In October 1912, John Schrank attempted to assassinate Theodore Roosevelt, as he was getting ready with the Progressive Party. His motivation? He said, I had a dream that former President McKinley appeared to me. I was told by McKinley that it was Schlogosh who murdered him. Not Schlogosh, not this guy. But who murdered him? Roosevelt. So he had to take care of it. Crazy. He said McKinley in his dream told me that his blood was on his hands and Roosevelt's hands and that Roosevelt killed him so he might be president. Okay. 7 U.S. cities in June 1919. New York, Boston, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Paterson, New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. They were all bombed in 1919 within 90 minutes of each other. It was a concerted effort among U.S.-based anarchists. So we'll put another one, bombing attempts. In 1933, FDR, did you know they tried to kill him as well. It failed. He said he wanted to kill kings and presidents of wealthy governments since he was 17. Anti-capitalist. 1950, 2 Puerto Rican nationalists tried to assassinate President Truman. Here's one of the guys. One was injured, the other one killed during the attempt. They hoped the assassination would advance the cause of the Puerto Rican independence, which is now a progressive. They just want to sow another. I put him in the anti-U.S. government, because now the progressives want to bring the people into Puerto Rican people and put a star on the flag. All right. The student riots, the days of rage in the 1960s. Who is that? Weather Underground, SDS, progressives going for the revolution. So we're going to put another one up here for the progressives. And that's the entire 1960s there. 1963, JFK was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. Who was Lee Harvey Oswald? He was pro-Castro, a socialist who viewed Cuba as the ideal Marxist utopia. So we have another Marxist up here. Gerald Ford survived 2 attempts in the first month. The first one was someone who was just trying to get a new trial for Charlie Manson, so we put another crazy mark there. My chalk is all falling apart. And the second one, this lady. That's Sarah Jane Moore. She was immersed in revolutionary socialist Marxist politics. She also said, we thought that doing that would trigger a new revolution. Doing something, killing somebody, acting out in violence might trigger a revolution. She's so right. Why do you think I'm anti-violence? These aren't all of the examples here in the U.S. Clearly, we didn't include Al-Qaeda, but these are the big ones that pretty much everybody knows, including Oklahoma City. And I don't think he was crazy. I think he was crazy for what he did. But he called himself a constitutional defender. There's one. He denounced government agents as tyrants and stormtroopers. He warned of their treasonous actions against the Constitution of the United States. There's one. All of these people, all of them are nuts. All of them are killers. And their violence was not the answer. But none of them said they did it. None of them said they did it. Because of all the heated rhetoric, violence is personal.
For the first time in his broadcast career, Glenn Beck is calling for someone's firing. Find out who next.
I want to know who's the chief of the protocol office at the White House. And I know that's a rhetorical question because really you can't answer me, and I know who it is already. It's Capricia Penevic Marshall. She seems lovely. She's not doing much protocol. No one in the White House has done much about protocol since Obama was elected. In the 2 years, we had the Russian snafu after Hillary told a Russian foreign minister that they worked hard to get just the right Russian word for reset. He tells her, that Russian word says overcharged. Uh-oh. Now, Capricia wasn't even at the White House yet, but could somebody in the office maybe look up a word? Or could someone have checked the compatibility of the British DVD players before Obama gave 25 unplayable movies to our closest ally? How about looking into the appropriateness of bowing to the Saudi king? Or for that matter, Tampa, Florida's mayor? Or for the wisdom of sending back a bust of Winston Churchill to Britain that was given to us as a as a gift on 9/11. Now, Capricia wasn't there for those, but she was there for the Mao Christmas tree ornament debacle, and now we've had this one. I love this one. The Chinese pianist allowed to play an anti-American song at the lavish White House state dinner. Here he is, he's introducing it. And by the way, this is just the song that everybody in China knows. It was written during the Korean War. Very, very popular in China. I believe they call Americans in this one jackals. So I don't know what's happening at the White House protocol office. I don't know if anybody over 8 is actually running our country from the White House, but I think she should be fired. I think everybody I'd rather have just a pencil and a dog that pees on people's legs at the protocol office, because at least we could explain those ones away. Regulation and reason tonight. Tomorrow I have one word for you. I'm bringing it. Chainsaw. No, a real one. Here in New York. Can you imagine the regulations on that? You don't want to miss tomorrow's show. Set your DVR right now. We'll see you then with a chainsaw from New York. Good night, America.